All right, we are now live. Welcome back to certification, coach certification training, that is. And man, it's been quite a week, quite a day. Had a ton of trainings. We've been doing tons of live streams. Really happy to be back because, especially today, I mean, this is something that we started working on in week one. But I really want to make sure that I give you some extra details on this as we get into week two, because in week two of certification, for those that don't know, we're covering some more detail and other facets of what we cover in coach certification training in these live streams. So feel free to tag along if you're not a part of the training itself. I'm sure more will come on in just a few minutes. But today, this is extra special because although we do cover cultivating and how to create your master coach state of mind in week one, today we're going to get more detailed, and I'm going to give you some extra techniques that you can use to amplify what we already have started to develop together. Hey, Josie, good to see you again, back from Hawaii. This week is very special because week two, we start to move past just kind of laying a foundation, a basic understanding of how to conduct our own minds and bodies to just get us to show up as great coaches, besides and beyond technique and knowledge and how we're going to approach, having a conversation with our client. And the reason why we start with state of mind and start cultivating that is because you've got the rest of your life to discover the right words. You've got the rest of your life to get really deep and detailed and develop a map in your own brain of what do I need to listen for? What do I need to ask? What do I need to say? What can I do with a client? Like those techniques, I like to call, overarching kind of clusters of techniques, disciplines, like an area, right? A domain, if you will, of mastery. But, you've got the rest of your life to master all sorts of different disciplines and approaches and conversational frameworks. And I'll tell you, I've forgotten more than I tend to use consciously, but there's a point where, as I've talked about in, I believe, orientation week here, that there's a point where you just kind of forget about all that and you just coach, right? But for years, you're going to be diving in to, deep realms of conversations, techniques, questions, areas to discover around what do I talk about? What do I ask? What am I doing with a client? If I really want to support them and serve them, other than just the knowledge that I can pass on as a good trainer or a good teacher as well, right? So you got the rest of your life to learn that. You got the rest of the 3 weeks to start to learn these master coach disciplines that we're about to jump into this week with, chances are, unless we've changed the training radically, accountability as a discipline. But today is not about introducing that to you. Today is about transitioning, kind of giving us that last final push for you to develop the next level of your master coach state before we dive in to, okay, now here are the steps I'm going to take to hold somebody accountable, push them into action, to support them in that area. Look, we got a bunch of chats coming in, so I'm just going to check out what we're saying. I tried the attack technique this morning. Who's been procrastinating? Oh, you had a client that's procrastinating. Use the attack and confess, I'm assuming. She noticed my different approach and said I needed it. It's great. I'm assuming that means she said she needed it. But anyway, neither here nor there. That's phenomenal. That's great. I'm glad it made a difference for them, and you used it. Can't acknowledge you enough for taking action like that. That's fantastic. Okay, we have a question. I actually have a question. How do you maintain stamina for long days of coaching? Oh boy, that's a big question. So the first thing is that, look, you need energy physically, right? So let's set that aside. There are all sorts of methods and approaches for physical energy, right? However, there are two things that I think you need for stamina aside from just being physically energetic enough. The one is you gotta maintain blood sugar. Okay, and the brain burns more calories than any other part of your body if you use it. So great chess players burn about 5,000 calories an hour. I'm guessing that's more than like a marathon runner. I don't know. I suppose I could be wrong there, but it's a lot of calories, right? So if you are really truly engaged throughout the day of your coaching, your blood sugar can go up and down quite a bit. Now, some people can go ketogenic. That is a great way to manage blood sugar because now your brain, to some extent, is burning fat, not sugar. Fine if you want to do that. Most of the approaches that people will take to go ketogenic, if they do that on a regular basis, it gets them early into coffin land. So I'm not into that. That's not my method. But like during live certification trainings, because I know I don't have a lot of time to eat, and I also want to make sure my energy level is consistent. I will generally go ketogenic that week. I'll go to a full fat diet. And I mean, I don't eat animal products, but you could totally do that with plants just as easily as you can with animals. And over a couple days, you burn all your blood sugar off, and then you go into fat burning mode. And that actually gives you quite a bit of mental acuity and sharpness, partly because you're kind of running on adrenaline a little bit. So I wouldn't recommend that on a long-term basis, but for like a week or two, totally doable, and it's a great way to maintain consistent energy without having to keep your blood sugar up, because your blood sugar doesn't have to, you just don't burn sugar anymore. You're burning a different fuel. And think of fat like burning like a candle. It burns long, whereas burning sugar is like burning, like a firecracker. It just goes off immediately, right? So that's one way that you could handle it. But again, I do not recommend that long term, because you're just you're digging yourself a grave very much more quickly than going on more of a carb heavy diet. Now that said, though, coming back to blood sugar, if you're if you're coaching really hard during the day and your mental, you're burning a lot of mental energy, basically burning your blood sugar, you do need to do one of two things. Either you need to have a serious lunch where you get your blood sugar back up. Have some carbs, okay? I don't mean like bad carbs, but, eat something that'll get your blood sugar back up. Take a break and eat and rest, okay? Blood sugar just recovers with rest, but obviously with introducing food, blood sugar spikes a little bit. You get that back a bit as well. Whether or not you eat every, 2 to 4 hours, you still are going to want to take a break about every 2 to 4 hours for at least 10 to 30 minutes. And during that break, you basically should be doing nothing. Nothing that takes any energy from you whatsoever. So, go lay down, right? Take a nap. Go comatose. Do anything that takes no energy, and you could be like a vegetable, okay? That's what I mean. It should not be any stress for you whatsoever. Go meditate. Some people do that. I'll do something ritualistic, or I'll take a nap, or, I'll have a snack or a meal. I'll go walk around in the yard. Something that's like literally it's a zero stress activity, right? And during that time, first of all, your adrenals will come down a bit because you're relaxing now, right? But secondly, your blood sugar rebounds because you're not burning it off anymore, right? So even if you don't eat, your blood sugar will rebound just through rest, basically, because your liver has time to produce some more whatever it produces to get that blood sugar back up. So that's the point of it. That's number one, is manage your blood sugar. These are different ways to do that. Because that, generally speaking, that's really the energy that people are having or not having. It's not like stamina at the end of the day. You've got enough stamina to go 24, 36 hours without stopping if you use your energy, right? People just don't use it, and so they collapse, right? So going for a 12-hour day or going for an 8-9 hour day is totally doable, even with going nuts with your clients. especially if you maintain your blood sugar well. Okay, so that's number one. Number two would be actually what we're covering today and what we covered last week in certification, which is manage your own mental state. Because if it's not a blood sugar issue, if it's not like a biochemical energy issue, which most of the time people in Western society have trouble with, because we basically abuse our bodies, we abuse our biochemistry, we have all sorts of ridiculously horrible things that we do to ourselves. Don't get me started, okay? But when it comes to assuming setting biochemistry aside, you can just get yourself back into state. So if you're feeling down, or you're feeling out of it, or you're feeling like overstressed or overwhelmed or something, great. Use these techniques we're talking about today. Use what we talked about last week and snap yourself back into it. I mean, literally, I've been going, it was probably like hour 13 for me. Okay, like I had a whole coaching day, and we had a 2+ hour immersion training session today where we're doing like some serious work with coaching demonstrations and feedback there. And I've been on 100%. I've worked with, I don't know how many people today, probably 10, 20 people. Yeah, probably more like 20. Many of them one-on-one, and played full out throughout the entire day. And it's 11:25 and I'm still going. Okay, I'm not sapped for energy. I did not have a chance to eat a lot today. I didn't have any time for rest. I've been going all day, but I'm still good because my state of mind supports that. And when your state of mind shows up, your body's there to support that. Your body's there to support your brain. So if your brain says, I'm in, let's go, let's make it happen, a lot of times your biochemistry will follow that if it is at all capable of doing so and you're healthy enough to handle that. What I do find, I'll tell you, a little secret here, on days that I'm not coaching, because I have off days where I run the business, those days I feel a lot more tired. Those days I'm kind of dragging. Let's put it that way. Now, part of that could be a little bit because of recovery from these long days, okay, to be fair. But part of it, frankly, is just mindset. I'm like, well, I don't have to be 100% today because this is just like administration. I'm just working on the marketing. I'm not making a presentation today. I'm not coaching, today. So I don't have to deliver like, shock and awe, right? And so there's a part of my brain that's like, you know what, take it easy. No big deal today. And of course, my biochemistry follows. My biochemistry is like, hey, let's go take a nap. You don't need to do anything today because the adrenals are down now. And the cortisol levels are down. If your cortisol levels are too low, your biochemistry is not like, hey, it's time to perform. A little bit of adrenal, a little bit of good stress. A lot of people's bodies, they just shut down. They're just like, go take a nap. Right? Go conserve, right? You almost might say that those days I'm a little depressed. Not because, oh no, I can't be around people all day today. I can't coach again. It's like I've coached enough in my life in the last 20 years. If I never coach another day in my life, I will be okay. I will totally survive. And I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't juice me, but those days, yeah, it's like I'm not quite as in love with my life that day. Because it's like admin and marketing and that kind of stuff is not like, I didn't sign up for this business because that's my cup of tea. I know I need to do it. I have to do it. I'm the one to do it because nobody else is doing it right now. So I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I am excited about what that can bring to me and my clients and bringing people together. But, it doesn't juice me the way that a coaching day does, right? So there probably is less energy there. So state of mind, I could change my state of mind around that if I really chose to, depending on my beliefs and the way I look at that. And then energy would probably come up during those days as well. Obviously, there's things that people are more naturally tuned to. When I get to interact with you guys, I'm more naturally going to have energy that I wouldn't normally. Okay, so take advantage of that and use these state management techniques to boost yourself beyond biochemistry. So I hope that helps. All right, so let's get to today. As I mentioned, we're covering these 3 techniques for a master coach state of mind, and these are not the foundations. The foundations we covered last week. All right, so review last week in order to get the foundational approaches to these. But these are amplifiers of like the foundation that you set for your master coach state of mind. Okay, so going through the peak flow process of remembering times you're a master coach, right, and how you performed, and anchoring that in, like any kind of affirmations, meditation, free writing, all those techniques that we cover in Quick Start or in certification. Those are obviously and absolutely things you want to utilize. But today we're going to get into 3 techniques that amplify those and take you to another level that I'm going to ask you to try out here. So think of this, think of utilizing these in this way. In the computer, we have software, right? So there's hardware, and then we have to program the computer with software. And you put new software into that computer, you can create a new result, right? Because different software does different stuff. Pretty basic, right? So think of that as what we did last week. We got into a state of mind that allows us to tap into a master coach state of mind, right? It's new software that we now can run at any time we choose to. We just replicate the same process we went through then. Okay, that's a foundation. However, what we're talking about today is not that. We're not talking about installing brand new software. When you have software running on your computers or on your devices nowadays, from time to time you will notice, I noticed this the other day, all my icons had changed. I've got these little games, I've got different apps, and all of a sudden, it's like the day before Halloween, all of the icons turn to Halloween icons, right? I'm like, okay, this is like a fad now, these app developers like updating their icons en masse. But they're not just doing that a lot of times in the background. They're updating their apps. They're updating their software. They're making it better. And sometimes, I'm just about to use, I'm just about to go on YouTube on my iPad, or I'm go on some other piece of software like Keynote. I had to load up the other day for a presentation here on my iPad, and it's like, oh, we're going to take 5 minutes and update this. And you get the little clock thing going around and around and around. And I'm like, what? You thought it the perfect time that I was going to use this, the one time in, a whole month that I'm going to use this, and you need to update right then and there. Like, it's like they pick these times for me not to have access to these apps, right? So it's kind of annoying, but the point of the matter is that they update or upgrade this software not to change what you're capable of, right? I already have the new result available in the old app, in the old version of the software. They're upgrading that software so I can get that same result faster, better, longer, easier, etc. Right? So they're just like little incremental tweaks that they're making. That's really what we're covering today. We're not installing new software. We're just jacking up the software, amping up the software that you already have learned how to utilize in this training. So use these 3 approaches to amp up your master coach state of mind for peak performance during coaching sessions. Trick your mind into programming yourself for success as a coach. It's my little blurb that I wrote for myself to read. That's the marketing that you get for today. So I will tell you, though, speaking of that question, I was actually going to share this anyway, you had about stamina. There was actually a point. It's funny because early in the day, I actually start a little slow. Like, I get myself in the right state of mind, and I'm ready to crank. Like, I could perform well right cold just because I've done this so much and because I know how to work through developing my state before I start for the day from square one. But there's a point during the day, usually it's like after lunch, but at some point during the day when I've had enough sessions, I've done enough, and I'm having enough experience with what was required of me that day, where I've really flat delivered for some clients. There is a point where I'm almost floating in terms of my state of mind. It happened today. Had some tremendously powerful sessions, were really, really intense, and caused some amazing breakthroughs that I was excited about, not just my clients were excited about. And, after sessions like that, I'm just like, it's like I can't feel my weight. I feel like I'm just flying through the coaching sessions that are coming up because my state of mind is just so strong. And that strength, to some extent, is perpetuated by practice, for sure, and it partially only came from practice, but also using these 3 different amplifiers and then actually seeing results happen with my clients. So as we talked about last week, you're starting with a state of mind. You amplify that state of mind and take action with it, because you got to act, and then you start to see those results occur, and those results, actions, and development of the state of mind all pour back into a state of mind, and you're at another level. Like you start out here, it's like, okay, I'm doing okay, I'm taking action based upon my current state of mind, I feel good that I'm taking action. And all of a sudden, all these amazing results occur, and it just, that comes right back. You notice those results, and you're like, okay, now I'm here. But you can't get to here without first getting here. So this is laying the foundation, amping it up, and then you go from there. Okay, I would never be able to produce those results had I not started with a great state of mind that day anyway. And then it's just like it's the next level after that. Make sense? All right. So let's start with the first model. We actually got a couple frames for this. So the first application is, and we actually worked on this last week. If this is the training you're taking, if you're watching this on a replay, could be years from now, and maybe we didn't cover this, but that's why I'm covering this now. This first amplifier is called Deep Trance Identification. Why do I have orange? Deep Trance Identification. So Deep Trance Identification was actually developed in hypnotic techniques, where people were in a deep trance and they would actually ask them to visualize a role model for them, so we call a model here, that actually represents who you'd like to be, how you'd like to feel, what you'd like to do. Be, do, have, feel, experience, etc. And so during the deep trance that this person's in, they would have them become this person. They'd have them identify deeply, so to speak, with that person. And so when they come out of the trance, they can bring that person with them and feel different feelings ultimately, have a different state of mind as a result, to amplify whatever states of mind they valued that they needed that maybe they didn't have access to consciously. So they do this in a more unconscious way. However, eventually, through good NLP and studying of hypnotic patterns, we're able to do the same technique while you're alive, while you're conscious, while you're awake, right? And we did this last week. So deep trance identification. First piece that you want to take with deep trance identification is you figure out your model. So this would be like step one. You got to figure out the model that you're going to use. So you, first of all, just need to think about, like, how do I want to show up in my coaching sessions? Who would be my ultimate role model for a master coach today that I want to identify with, and I want to kind of steal their thunder, right? What is the attitude or state of mind that I want to be a facsimile of or replicate within myself? Make sense? So you first of all got to come up with a model for this. And your model should be somebody that you have seen perform, you've seen them operate, you've seen them communicate, you've seen their body language. I used to use famous actors for this because they're so good at demonstrating certain physiologies and certain attitudes and certain ways of communicating. They're some of the most amazing deliverers of hypnotic patterns and poetry and artful prose of modern day, and they're chosen from literally hundreds of thousands of people that are like wannabes of this, and the very cream of the top. When you watch a good movie with a really good actor, I mean, they have been naturally selected, right? The natural selection has eliminated all the crap, and this person has gravitated to the top of the heap. Okay, now look, some of that is politics probably, but some of that's flat performance. They need to perform just tremendously. So I would use those role models because they're just tremendous performers in terms of compelling communication. But there's others. There's coaches, there's gurus, there's teachers, there's politicians, there's public figures, there's family members for that matter. So it's not hard to find these people, but you need to be able to picture them in your mind's eye or else you can't use them. Okay, so you got to have a really good picture of this person and a sense of how they operate. Make sense? I literally used to turn on one of my role models, on the VHS at that time, or like a DVD or something, and I'd play their scenes over and over again until I could just match the physiology and match the tonality. because I wanted to be able to replicate that level of intensity, that level of excellence in communication of certain states of mind, certain emotions, certain experiences that I felt were valuable for me to be able to replicate, right? I'm not saying you have to do that, okay, but this is a little bit more esoteric process. It's a lot faster than that. So discover your model, figure out who they are. Once you've seen your model in action, and you know who they are, then secondly, you're going to observe them. And this is going to be done with your eyes closed, chances are. So feel free to go through this process. You don't have to watch me doing this. So this is the second step. You close your eyes and you observe them, out of their body. You're not in them right now. You just see them in your mind's eye. And you're going to observe certain things. You're going to observe, what are they focused on? What's their physiology? How do they stand? How do they breathe? What's the look that they have on their face, right? What's the way that they move? All of that, movement quality, breathing quality, look on your face, posture, etc. All of those are aspects of physiology. You need to understand with what level of excellence or style this particular model operates those things, because the physiology programs your mind. If you can't replicate the physiology at any level, you're probably not going to replicate the mindset. So notice what they focus on. Notice what their physiology is. Notice what are their beliefs. Now, by the way, they might not tell you this. You might need to use your own intuition as to, okay, if I stood like that and I breathed like that and I focus on those things, what would I believe? What do I have to believe to show up that way, right? So you can intuit this. That's fine. What language patterns do they use internally and externally? Like, what do they say to themselves? And then what do they say on the outside as well? And then finally, how do they perform? Put the cook in the kitchen, put the actor on stage, and watch them in your mind's eye perform. See them doing what they're doing at a level of excellence that you could only dream of, that you only wish you were, right? That's where you want to go. That's what you want to be seeing. So you want to watch that clearly. That's step 2, is observe that. Finally, step 3, well, actually, this is more step 3 over here. Step 3 is you are going to set the stage to float into that model's body and feel the world through their body, see the world through their eyes, right? And the way you want to do that is you position them in front of you, just like here, and you kind of float right in front of them so you're close enough so you can step into their body. And then you want to kind of give yourself a suggestion, and you want to mention to yourself, in just a second, I'm going to step into their body and I'm going to become them. Not yet, but I'm going to, right? And you want to give yourself kind of a command in your unconscious mind that when you step into their body, you will feel what they feel, see what they see, think the way they think. You will become them. You will literally be them. That's the point of this. So once you've suggested that to yourself, you just give yourself a countdown. You count to 3 and then you do it. So I'm imagining this person in front of me, the way they move, the way they breathe, the look that they have on their face. Imagine what they think, how they feel. That's right. Their beliefs, their focus, their language pattern internally and externally. I'm thinking about that in my own mind, but I'm projecting that onto their image at this point. And now I'm imagining, now when I step into their body, I'm going to become them. I will literally be them. I'll feel them. I believe what they believe. I'll think what they think. I'll have their capabilities. And then I just need to count down. 1, imagining I'm about to step into their body. 2, I feel myself kind of being pulled towards them. And 3, I step into their body and I can literally feel being them right at this moment. I could feel their feelings within me. I could feel how they stand. I could feel how they look. I mean, it's literally like I just kind of imagined it for myself just for demonstration purposes. That's all you got to do. Now, you can make this even easier on yourself by just, if you really want to be lazy, just kind of stand there, eyes open or closed, imagine them and their high performance mode floating towards you, and you can actually imagine kind of shrinking them down and taking them into your heart or your solar plexus, etc., kind of a center of emotion for you, and just let them kind of enter you, so to speak, so you can assimilate them into your greater whole, right? And this is, I will do this, it's a little bit different than deep trance identification, but if I have multiple role models, I don't just want to be one of them. Now, I could do this 3 times, I can stack that, or I can imagine, okay, there's one role model. Okay, I can feel them. There's another role model. I can feel them. There's another role model, another role model. I can actually take 3, 4, 5. Like, why be one person when you can be like 10, right? And I can feel all those within me, and you can you could probably hear me at this point. It's actually changing my state just to think about this, because I've got my role models on my wall right over here. I won't show you because I'll have to turn the camera around or wreck the scene. But I take all the pictures of my role models that I can get a picture for, people that I know they have a state of mind that I want to be able to replicate from various worlds. And I just, put them on a simple, print them out on a document, stick them all over the wall. And then that reminds me, when I'm about to go into my state for the day, I can steal any of those individuals' states of mind, or all of them if I choose to. And I can pick and choose as well. And that gives me access to something that's above and beyond what I would do by default, because those individuals, they live their entire life. Their entire life. They sacrificed, spent years and years and years to try to become who they are, to think the way they think, to hone their mindset in whatever way they have. Authors, healers, leaders, gurus, coaches, artists, right? These are people that are the movers and shakers, thought leaders of the world that I look up to, right? Because I know who they are, because I've experienced them in some way, shape, or form. And I could absorb them. I could absorb all their genius within this little deep trance identification method, okay? Now, obviously, I haven't lived their life. I'm not going to replicate everything, but I can get enough. And then I can then start to formulate my own level of genius that stands on my understanding of where they have taken me already, just by me observing who they are. Make sense? Yeah, like one of you said beast mode. That's exactly right. You want to be so sharp that nothing can touch you in a coaching session. Like, you're unshockable, you're unflappable, no matter what happens. You're in command of that session. It doesn't mean you're trying to be the boss of your client, right? Not that you couldn't take that on if it was needed, but that you are absolutely unstoppable. You're totally intuitive, creative, masterful, empathetic, loving, grateful, at peace, whatever you need, right? Now, not everybody needs all of those states, but why not get the best of all of that within you so you can flow and be agile and become whoever your client needs you to become. Frankly, I'll tell you, a lot of the coaching world, they took on this mindset early on, like decades ago, that, hey, only certain people can work with me because certain people aren't coachable. Like they're just not ready to work with me, or I wouldn't work with them. I wouldn't select to work with them because it wouldn't serve them, and they're not good enough for me, or some kind of excuse, basically. I mean, that's really what it was, right? The truth is, a lot of those coaches were simply ineffective coaches. They were impotent people. They were not effective in many ways. I'm sure they were effective in some ways. Not to put them down completely, right? But they could not reach all sorts of people. They could not help all sorts of people. And yeah, economically it was probably smart for them to be very narrowly focused. But the reality was they did not have enough agility and ability to be able to take anyone and take them to the next level. And that is just, I'm not up for that low standard. Sorry. I get that that's a fine business move, but my clients deserve more from me, and I don't need to try to pick and choose and select a client that's already going to be successful so I can feel successful by working alongside them, okay? Nothing wrong with working with successful clients, but really I could take anybody from any situation as long as they're not completely biochemically or physically compromised. In other words, there's not already a permanent injury to the brain or to their biophysiology in some way, shape, or form. Anything's possible with them. In fact, the worse they are, a lot of times the more they're going to grow as well. I'm not taking I don't mean that it's not nice to take somebody really successful and take them to the next level. You could totally do that too. Sometimes that could be just as challenging, frankly. But I don't care who you are. I don't care what your barriers are, what you're challenged by. My state, I'm responsible for showing up, and you want to pay my fee. I'm going to take you where you need to go. And this is how I'm able to do that, among other things, obviously. So this is the first method, deep trance identification. Let's move on to the second one. This one's a little bit more common, all right? And that is attitude amplifier. So much more simplistic approach and technique, which is once you get into your state, you rank it on a 0 to 10, 0 being no intensity at all, not even feeling it, 10 being the most intense you've ever felt. And wherever you fall, you want to ask yourself, what would it take for me to move this up 1 point, 1 increment, so to speak? So if I'm at an 8, I want to take myself to a 9. If I'm on a 4, I want to take myself to a 5. Make sense? Super easy, right? And then you just want to ask certain questions to get yourself there. You want to ask, what would I have to notice or remember to move up a point? What would I have to appreciate right now in order for me to move from that 8 to a 9 on intensity level for the state that I'm in right now? What would I need to believe? What would I need to focus on or think? Who would I need to be, or what would I need to do? Right? Now, sometimes people can't come up with like conscious answers for this. A lot of times I do. But you don't have to be consciously understanding what these answers are. You just imagine you know, and then count to 3, give yourself a countdown, and amplify it right at that point. It's like, okay, I don't know exactly, but I need to appreciate, believe, or focus on something. So on the count of 3, I'm going to make my unconscious mind just do that. 1, 2, 3, bam, you anchor it, and you feel yourself increase in intensity in that state. And you do it like 2 or 3 times. By that time, you're usually going to be hovering, around an 8, 9, or 10, chances are. This is where it gets exciting. You do the same technique, but instead of amplifying incrementally, you do it exponentially. So now you ask, okay, I'm at a 10 out of 10. What would I need to notice, appreciate, remember, believe, etc., to double the intensity of that state? And of course, our unconscious mind doesn't think in math, okay? So when you say double it, it's just a huge increase in intensity. And of course, if you ask the question with certainty to your unconscious mind, it'll come up with an answer, even if you're not conscious of it. You're like, okay, what would I need to notice in order to double my intensity of state? What would I need to remember in order to double the intensity of my state? What would I need to appreciate or believe to double the intensity of my state? What would I need to focus on or think to double the intensity of my state? Who would I need to be to double the intensity of my state? What could I do in a second, double the intensity of my state? And whether you access it consciously or not, you count to 3 and do, be, appreciate, remember, whatever those things are, and bam, you've suddenly doubled your state. You have a whole different level of intensity at that point. That doesn't mean you need to get louder. That doesn't mean that you need to get crazy. That doesn't mean that you need to get over the top. It's intensity, not volume. It's intensity, not it's not a parabolic or a hyperbolic or hyperbole, right? Intensity is a different level of sharpness, right? And by the way, you can loosen up as well, but there's a certain sharpness that comes with intensity, right? When you intensify the light, like with a magnifying glass, it focuses it in more narrowly. It doesn't just, make it more crazy. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you can't do that too. I mean, you possibly can, but we're trying to intensify the master coach state, not just take you in a position where your clients are going to be, who the heck is this guy? They're nuts. I can't get rapport with them, right? We're not looking for that. Okay. So we want some flexibility there as well. So, and then you double it again and again and again. You could be at a level 100 on a 0 to 10 if you do this a couple times with exponential focus. Make sense? That's what we're after here. Super simple technique, very doable. I could probably do this in like 30 seconds if I, am in the right position, right? Probably even less. But I'll do this almost every time to amplify. I don't always do deep trance identification. I don't always need to. But the attitude amplifier is a go-to for me because it's so simple and so straightforward. Finally, third, is this in focus? Maybe I should change this up a little bit. Sometimes that helps more. Anyway, neither here nor there. Third technique is what I call the emotional spinner. And the emotional spinner is a very effective and helpful approach. So the way it works, I'll just give you the map first, is you think about the location of your state of mind. And every feeling that we have has a location. Some people feel things in their extremities. More often than not, we'll feel something in our core, because usually the center of emotion is somewhere between the solar plexus and your heart. Can come up a little bit higher, but usually it's somewhere around here where we more often feel our feelings. Even in the back of our body, it can be located there. So usually it's going to be somewhere around here. That kind of is the original emotion location. So this is the first thing. We just want to locate that emotion. Next thing is you want to notice every emotion, if it stays with you, has a spin to it. Because the emotions move throughout our body, but the reason why they stick around is they loop. You know, if emotion just moved in one direction, you lose the emotion. You have to find another emotion to feel. But that's why people feel like they can't get out of depression, or they can't get out of anxiety, or they can't get out of some other negative emotion. Anger, for instance. Anger feeds on itself, right? But also it's why people that are grateful get more grateful, or excited get more excited, or loving get more loving. Because they just amplify, they spin that emotion around and it keeps jacking itself up. So why not actually harness this phenomenon, which you can totally do, and I do every day that I'm coaching. So you notice the location, and then you want to feel where it's spinning, and it'll spin in a certain direction, right? And all you've got to do then is imagine it spinning faster and faster and faster. So now personally, I like to spin this feeling right within my body. I don't even let it come out of my body. But some people will feel like it's going to come out of like their solar plexus or their heart or their throat chakra, so to speak, and loop back around. And that's okay if it kind of loops like this. Some people will actually have it spin right out of their forehead, and it comes out of here and loops like that, back into the center of emotion. And for some people, they'll actually have it so energetic that it actually explodes out of their head, goes above them, loops all the way around, right back where it started, right? So that's the size of the spin, so to speak. So that would be number 2, is you spin the feeling. And you spin it around, you spin it around, you spin it around. That's really it. Now, I will give you some techniques to this around to make it work better for you. So you imagine the feeling, you imagine it spinning, but here's the key that I've found personally. You want to go after speed more than anything. So you want that spinning to be as fast as you can possibly imagine. The slower it spins, the lower the intensity tends to be with certain emotions. But the faster the spin is, the more intense it gets. You can feel almost like the centrifugal force of that emotion. So think like a race car engine, or a race car, race cars and the wheels spinning around, or like a jet engine. I always imagine, because sitting in an airplane and seeing and hearing the jet engine spool up, you can hear that sound, that huge sound. Zzz, you could feel it, that there's something pretty heavy going on, just under the wings, just outside the plane, right? And you can imagine how fast that's moving. It's moving tremendously fast. And so you imagine like that feeling spooling up like a jet engine. It could get pretty intense pretty fast. And that'll jack up the energy and the intensity of that state very easily. That's the imagination technique that I'll use. The keys are size, like we talked about here. Speed, so the speed of the spin. And then finally, density. So think about that. Like something light that you spin, if you spin it fast enough, it starts to have some weight to it because of the centrifugal force, the G forces, right? But if you imagine something really hyper dense and hyper, kind of concentrated, like an emotion could be, and you spin that faster, that will create an even deeper level of intensity for you as well. So that's it. These are the techniques that I would recommend, and my action for you, if you choose to accept it, your mission, so to speak, is to try one of these techniques each day. Replay this if you need to, right? To write down, take the emotion of the notes on this, or I'm going to leave this up for a while, so replay it as much as you want, and just fast forward to whichever technique you're using that day, and just try one each day. Like try number 1, day 1, try attitude amplifier day 2, try the emotion spinner day 3. I mean, you could do all of these in one day. There's no doubt about that. They're pretty fast, but just one a day minimum when you're going to coach. Okay. Before you coach, of course, you don't want to do this afterwards. That's not going to help you that much. And take just a couple minutes, for each one, and then rotate and do the next one the next day and the next one the next day. At least do these like twice. So do them for like 6 days in a row, okay, or 6 coaching days in a row, and see what happens to you. See how you show up in these coaching sessions. And if you find it's working at all for you, makes a difference for you, at least repeat the ones that work. And then my coaching for you is keep repeating the other ones so you can learn to make those work even better as well. And just keep rotating. Just 1 out of the 3 each day. It's just play master coach bingo with these, right? And just rotate them. Okay, so you're not taking too much time. We're just practicing these throughout training. And I can promise you one thing, you're going to get good at a couple of these throughout the training, and eventually these are going to be such go-to amplifiers for you that you're going to use them for life. So that's my coaching for you on this one. Any questions, hit me up in the chat, and I will see you in day 2 of week 2 of coach certification training. Oh, and by the way, share these as always. As I always say, share these with your friends. Share these with your fellow leaders and coaches. Share these with the communities that you trust and you entrust with these techniques, and that they're going to utilize them for good, not evil, of course. And managers, influencers, leaders, people that we know we want to give access to more intensity from what they actually can provide the world, not less. So we can really, make a difference for them as well. And one of the best ways that this will naturally and kind of almost automatically, through the power of AI nowadays, be brought to people like yourself that need and want this, would just be to like wherever you are. Like it on Facebook, like it on YouTube. And then if you are not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, I will put the replay on YouTube so you have a chance to go there and subscribe and hit the bell, because that will give you reminders when these live streams come up, because I don't always, as you might have noticed, I don't always give you very much notice ahead of time when we're about to run one of these live streams. So the best way is just be on notifications so it'll ring you. It's just like one quick push notification. It's not a big deal. So you can always strike it if you choose not to check it out live, but it'll be available to you if you subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell. I don't trust Facebook like at all with that, so I can't tell you that you're getting the notices there no matter what you do on that end. But YouTube is very reliable, I've found. All right, guys.